We don't have to do this. There's one other option.
Hunter, are you sure?
Right. It's worth a shot, isn't it?
Yeah, let's do it!
Leave this to me.
Watch, Nanta. This is what hunters do.
I will.
By my own order. I will slay Zoh Shia.
Words can barely describe to you just how powerful the reveal of Zoh Shia truly was in Monster Hunter Wilds. More than 20 years in the making, this artificial creature served as the culmination of histrionic buildup, hinting, and the penultimate stop in a hushed undercurrent of storytelling in this series, which began when I was just a child, speculating and imagining the details and depths of this world while playing a PS2 game. Hi, I'm Stargazer 018. I'm a VTuber who runs a weekly Dungeons & Dragons show based on the lore and world of Monster Hunter, and I want to talk to you for a bit about Zoh Shia, a monster quite literally created using the very same material I based my own dense interpretation of the underlying lore on. If you're new to Monster Hunter or haven't filled your head with the series' off-screen backstory, here's a quick primer on why this story and the reveal of Zoh Shia was so meaningful. In this video, I want to tell you what Capcom were cooking when Zoh Shia was designed and implemented into this game, why it's the best final boss the series has ever had, and what it could hint at for the future of Wilds in title updates and an expansion. Way back in olden times, Capcom and Monster Hunter released a certain art book which contained a concept image for a so-called scrapped piece of ancient civilization lore. One you probably know about. I'm talking about this image. Equal Dragon Weapon. For damn near 2 decades now, fans of the series have been eagerly questioning if the story told on this page about the ancients creating a cybernetic chimera, an artificial dragon to battle in some ancient dragon war, was a real event that occurred in the history of the Monster Hunter world, or if it had been left on the cutting room floor. Well folks, suffice it to say that Equal Dragon Weapon is very real. Though those particular words were never spoken in the story of this newest entry, it is beyond debate that Zoh Shia absolutely is the fabled artificial dragon weapon that we speculated over. Granted, this final product differs greatly from the concept, but in ways that are only improvements if you ask me. Firstly, the story of Monster Hunter Wilds elaborates ahead of time that the ancients of Wyveria had solved generating artificial life using existing living monsters as template creatures. We see these guardian creatures throughout the game, so named for their purpose, serving humanity, most likely in combative roles as, well, guards, or one might say soldiers. We're told that the ancients devised their ultimate guardian when war was at their doorstep, and I'll get back to that part. The guardians that we encounter in this game are all beasts or wyverns. Rathalos, Ebony Odogaron, Fulgur Anjanath, Doshaguma, and Arkveld. None among these rise to the supernatural heights of dragonhood, and thus these are, well, sub-equal dragon weapons. Dragons in the Monster Hunter world are in a class of their own compared to the monsters I named, and are typically defined as powerful enough to impact the environment by their presence or will alone. It's also well established that elder dragons don't subsist on a normal diet of, well, calories, the way that normal creatures do, just like the guardians, instead having a more focused and unnatural method of absorbing nutrients from other sources. I personally take this to look like the Guardians were devised around the application of the Dragon Torch, or the ancient source of perpetual energy, as a biologically engineered imitation of the physiology of Elder Dragons. I think the way the Guardians are seen absorbing energy from it is a hint at this, as it's damn near identical to the way that we see Safi Jiva do it in Monster Hunter World. Although I think there is a possible argument to be made that Safi is, itself, an unnatural creature, but let's talk about that another time. We encounter Zoh Shia in this game, and many long, unstated questions are finally answered. But if you ask me, there is one question that is begged by this game's story which goes unanswered. Why did the ancients create this thing? The Ancient Dragon War isn't described to us in the old concept art book. We don't truly know what went on there, only that the ancient civilization fell, and all we knew which was left behind were ruins, and the great towers, whose purpose remains unknown. What we do know is there does exist a dragon in Monster Hunter's lore which is tried and tested against whole civilizations, and proven capable of utterly leveling them in short order. One that could be called the King of Dragons, a force of reckoning and demise, if only it had over 1,000 years to mature, grow wise, hateful, and malicious. Of course, I'm talking about Fatalis, though more specifically, the White Fatalis. It's been some time since we've seen White Fatalis in a Monster Hunter title, but more importantly, White Fatalis has almost never been a feature fight of the series. That is to say, almost every time it's been included in a Monster Hunter title, it's been as an extra battle, a surprise or an additional inclusion without any fanfare, best described as questionably canon, with only Monster Hunter 2's much more rudimentary or slim approach to storytelling serving as the only very basic exception. White Fatalis is an ancient member of its species, which it could be argued only has 3 members. Fatalis is notoriously an evil creature, probably one of the only monsters in the series pretty well understood to be evil. This is our first clue to the demise of the ancients, but there is another. White Fatalis is battled in a couple of arenas throughout the series, but the location is geographically the same, at the top of an ancient civilization tower. As I mentioned, Fatalis is canonically responsible for the fall of an entire kingdom within the span of hours or maybe days. So we know it is a civilization ender, and White Fatalis' choice of arena connects it to the fall of Wyveria all too well. Zoh Shia, as we know, is the true culprit of the fall of Wyveria. In a way, this is bittersweet. I was almost a bit disappointed to hear that White Fatalis wasn't the Great Destroyer. However, I find it almost a given that the threat Zoh Shia was created to battle, the war that pushed Wyveria to its limits, that war must have been with the White Fatalis itself. So that brings us to what Zoh Shia actually is. The concept art tells us it's a chimera, a cyborg whose meat parts are cobbled together from numerous other dragons. Well, that part has definitely changed. There is nothing here that suggests that Guardians are chimeric, because they seem to turn out nearly identical in appearance and function to their template species, albeit with some new and explosive abilities. Our pal Zoh Shia's appearance out of the cocoon, or as I like to call it, biblically accurate dragon weapon, does give us some hints. The first thing I want to call attention to is the length of Zoh Shia's tail. This jumped out to me immediately when I did this fight. Its tail is wildly disproportionate to the rest of its body, which is a Fatalis trait. Next, its limbs. Zoh Shia doesn't just have 4 legs and a pair of wings. The wing appendages are arms, and this body morphology isn't new to Monster Hunter. In fact, it should ring very similar to you. It's Geismagorm. No, I'm kidding, it's not Geismagorm. I don't think Geismagorm has anything to do with this. It's actually Gormagala. I'm pointing this out to stimulate your brain chemicals, because anything I say about Gormagala's connection to Zoh Shia or the Fatalis is pure speculation. I am speculating respectfully, believe me, but I don't have any meaningful observations about this trait outside of that it calls into question what the hell Gormagala Axe really is. The last physical trait I want to call attention to on Zoh Shia is what happens when its head is broken. We can see this void appear on its face where an eye should be. And I don't think this is insignificant or by accident at all, as Fatalis' eyes have always been a staple in the quiet storytelling around the Black Dragon and are described as evil, possessed, and supernatural. This looks to me like a possible hint that the closer the ancients came to replicating Fatalis, the more of its inherent evil would manifest in their own creation. Zoh Shia transforms throughout the fight, and we see it take on several physical characteristics of Fatalis. While this was happening, I could not contain my excitement. We were being shown that no, White Fatalis did not destroy Wyveria, but that doesn't mean it wasn't destroyed by a Fatalis. That's why I think this is an improvement over the old Chimera cyborg. This pays off our speculation in ways we hadn't really considered, and doesn't diminish our idea of Fatalis. First, Zoh Shia displays continuous streams of fire, which we see Fatalis perform in Monster Hunter World. This was a new trait of Fatalis in that game, as his fights in the past were, well, we'll call them less interesting. You might have thought this was just dragon breathe fire, but no, this is absolutely a very intentional Fatalis reference. Following this, Zoh Shia then begins calling meteors, though I found this attack to be a bit rare and understated in this fight. Just the same, this and the bouncing fireballs we see are attacks manifested from the Crimson Fatalis, which is something we first battled in Monster Hunter Portable. When Zoh Shia evolves for the final time in this fight, it becomes wreathed in scarlet lightning and gains access to these line lightning attacks and localized lightning strikes. The animation used to call these are familiar to series vets. It's White Fatalis. During this phase, Zoh Shia also frequently rises into an upright posture. Veterans and New World hunters alike should recognize this stance as that of the Fatalis. In addition, the music during this phase of the fight also takes on several leitmotifs which reference Fatalis, specifically the rendition of his theme from Monster Hunter World, which itself is a modern arrangement of the classic Monster Hunter 1 theme. So, Zoh Shia is in fact a chimera, but all those components are Fatalis flavored. The question stands if this was designed this way, or if the evil underlying Zoh Shia's essential DNA is simply evolving with a mind of its own. Anyway, seeing this was awesome, and it made every second of the story worth the wait. Monster Hunter Wilds paid off over 2 decades of speculation and fixation I've had for this series, and what I hope for the most in the future is what we can learn about the war and what role our good old friend White Fatalis played in it. If you want to hear what my take on those events is in my own fan fiction of a lore reading, check out my D&D show featuring myself and 5 other VTubers based on the Monster Hunter world. It's called Hunt for the Starry Sky, and it features tons of custom artwork, and even an original heavy metal soundtrack based on Monster Hunter. I've been Stargazer018. Nobody loves Monster Hunter more than me. Please take care, stay safe, and be good people. Catch ya.